Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with your host, Christina Nitchman.
This is your host, Christina Nitchman. Each week, Savvy runs weekly broadcasts providing entrepreneurs and successful individuals a platform to express their dreams, hopes, lessons learned, expertise, and wisdom with the world. To start our show today, we're joined by Rebecca Berman, a lifestyle reporter, video producer, and most recently, the talk show host of The Cooler, a new twist on a modern-day talk show with a colossal cooler as the centerpiece. Find out more at RebeccaBermanTV.com. In the second half of our hour, we're joined by James Evanow, multi-talented speaker, author, trainer, and entrepreneurial businessman. Find out more about James at jamesevanow.com. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you today?
Hey, good. How are you? So excited to be here.
I'm doing fabulous, and I'm so excited you could join us. You are doing some amazing stuff out there, girl. You have a really interesting background to share with our audience a little bit about your background, what led you to being a celebrity talk show host and your new show, The Cooler.
Okay. Sure. As a kid, I loved doing improv and being in shows, and that was like my hobby, and I loved doing it. And, it's very funny when I look back on my life. I remember it was time to go to college, and my mom's like, you really should be a drama or a theater major. You love doing acting. And I was like, that's not a career. I can't do that. And the joke is, and my moral of my whole story is, you really should try to find what your passion is and do what you love, because that's probably where you'll end up being the most successful in your life. Mm-hmm. So to flash forward, I was a communications major. I wanted to be a broadcast journalism major, but I felt like I wasn't a good writer. Mm. So I didn't pursue that at all. I ended up working in the entertainment business, worked at MTV for many years, producing large-scale parties like Video Music Awards and award show parties and, things like that, management meetings and sales meetings. And then had kids and became a real estate agent. Mm. And that was really where I learned how to become an entrepreneur. Wow. And I think that's what really led to me developing my whole, my own personal brand and media career. So what happened is I came to a point in my life where I was like, I want to do what I really love. I'm good at selling real estate. I don't know how much longer I really want to do this. And I'm good at planning parties and doing events, but I'm not going to go back to that field again. And what I ended up doing was learning, due to the way social media and the internet is today, I ended up saying, you know what, I've always wanted to be a broadcast journalist. I'm going to figure out how to do that. And I ended up getting a gig and doing a lot of lifestyle reporting news packages for a local news show, hyper-local, around where I live in my, not far from my community. And I loved it. And it was so fun, and I was able to bring a little bit of my improvisational self into it as well. And with that, I then started making little fun 2-minute videos about restaurants, because I love food, and that was some of the stuff I was reporting on for the news station. And I made them kind of fun, again, and improvisational, but also telling a little bit of a story and, kind of highlighting and promoting what the restaurant, was about. And then through my real estate work, people started to hire me to do that for large houses that they were listing. And again, I wrote my own scripts and hosted them and had my production crew film them and made them look really professional. Mm-hmm. And through all of that, that was how I developed the idea for The Cooler. And The Cooler is a modern twist on a talk show. And my sidekick is a colossal, huge igloo cooler. And I pull different fun things out of it as I'm speaking to my different celebrity and or non-celebrity guests. And the stuff I'm pulling out could be fun games. It could be improvisational ideas that the guest isn't expecting. It could be something promoting the guest work that, again, maybe they weren't expecting, and or that they were, but I could tie something more fun into that promotion idea. So the cooler really put my improvisational skills and my production skills and my storytelling that I, really got from the broadcast journalism side, those skills, rolled them all into one, and kind of that's where we are today. And we are, currently we've already filmed one of our first episodes of the show, The Cooler, and we're just working to get it all on TV. And that's kind of it in a nutshell and how it came to be.
Wow, that is an amazing story and very inspirational to hear, because we've had quite a few guests come on that share on our show that they had started their dream pretty late in life. They had done other things such as yourself and myself, maybe working in corporate, growing, raising your children, and then deciding, you know what, I want to do my passion. How do I go about doing that? Now, I heard you mention briefly that the real estate was kind of the jumpstart, the leap for you to push you forward. What about it with the real estate kind of pushed you forward and gave you the leap?
Well, I will tell you, I've been a real estate agent for many years, and I've had a lot of success at it, and I've had a lot of downtime at it. And what I have had at it all along was learning how to run my own business and learning how to be a self-starter. And as the career went on, and some years were good success years, and you're all wrapped up in it and making money and whatever. And some years you're like, why am I doing this job? I hate that client. This one's a jerk. I don't want to be treated like that. And then you're like, but yet you're still in it. And what I said to myself, I just got to a point where my family was and where I was in my life. And I said, what do you want to do in 5 years from now? And I'm like, I don't want real estate to be who I am. And I don't want to put anything down about it, because if it wasn't for that real estate career, I would definitely not be where I am today. But I went through so many over the course of the career, I learned so many self-starter and entrepreneurial lessons. And you're your own business when you're a real estate agent. Yes, it's nice because you have the support of an office and a manager and a company behind you, but you really have to make it happen. It's all up to you in order to make money. And, I went to a lot of those, I don't know how to describe them, a lot of those like inspirational real estate people who tour around the country and tell you how to the 12 steps, or to call everyone on a Monday at 2:00 every week, until you get them to, end up working with you. So just all of those little things about life and about being a good salesperson and being somebody who can really maintain a business, I learned through, the course of my time as an agent. And I certainly am still an agent. It's kind of in your blood. It's not something you could ever give up. But my path certainly right now is, the TV show and the Cooler and what I've created with that. I guess that kind of explains, where I got the oomph to be like, hey, I just made a whole, lifetime of real estate, being a great real estate agent. Why can't I do that for something I love doing? And I certainly, at the snap of a finger, would never have found the Cooler, and that show and being on TV. That would not have happened for me had I not really done some soul searching and figuring out, what do I love to do? How can I make it in today's world? I went to tons of social media classes, not having any idea that it would lead to me having a TV show, and or even that I was going to be doing lifestyle reporting. News package report. I would have never known that. But when I started to really investigate, kids coming right out of college, hey, what are the fields that are available to me? And learning where young people are today looking to make it in the world, I realized, oh my God, look at all these skills I can learn by if I go to this networking thing, if I go to that. I did a lot of New York Women in Communication conferences. So I really understood and learned where the world of communications was today. And that also jump-started me into making the videos and saying, hey, people always tell you how funny you are. People always, you love trying out for shows. You love being in, a funny, doing a comedic part in a show. And people always say you're the funniest person in the show. And even though you take that stuff when you hear it and you're like, yeah, whatever, thanks, you're like, you don't really believe someone saying that to you truthfully. But then when I stopped to think about what do people keep telling me I'm good at?
Yeah, and that's a good point there, right? What you just said, Rebecca, is that often people will take what they think will make them successful, not what's truly passionate in their heart, because they take it for granted. It comes so easily to them.
And that I think was the problem with where my life was. It came so easily to me to do those fun improvisational shows and concepts and be like that. And I was always like that as a young person, that I didn't think that was a thing.
Yeah. No, I get you. I totally get you, Rebecca. And the step-by-step process that I'm getting from you is what's missed a lot from myself when I first got started as an entrepreneur and business owner, and from a lot of other business owners that have come on the show and talked to me off the show, is that people and myself thought in the beginning that success should be pretty quick, and that why didn't I get this quicker? And when you And when you look back at your life, you realize, okay, everything was a process. You going through the real estate and then getting the lifestyle reporting, all of it was step-by-step process to lead you perfectly to where you are today.
Right, and I would not, if you asked me that 5 years ago, I would have never known that. And I would have been like, oh, yeah, acting, that's a hobby of mine. Oh, yeah, performing, that's something I haven't done in a couple of years. Maybe I'll do it again one day. It was really just, I also went to see a career counselor. I had a friend who was getting divorced who had gone to see someone, and the woman's like, you seem to really like acting. Why aren't you doing something with that? And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? That's a hobby. That's not something you do something with. That coupled with, hey, back when I was in my 20s, I wanted to be a broadcast journalist. That's kind of where, everything started to form, and I started to go to these conferences and learn about social media. And actually someone followed me on Twitter, which is how I started the lifestyle reporting. When I realized they followed me, I must have posted some video that I made, very rough about something. I know, I got it. I just remembered what my first thing was. I worked for a local online, literally just right in my little town, in my little suburban community, some lady has an online newspaper. It's not something in print. It's just online. And I remember when I was first, going into how am I ever going to become a broadcast journalist? How am I ever going to get on camera? I called this lady up and I said, I noticed you don't have anyone doing videoed interviews on your site. Would you be interested? I've never done it before, but would you be interested in working with me? Blah, 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 blah. And she's like, oh my God, yes, I've always wanted to do it. And we ended up doing 4 videoed, just sit down, formal interviews with questions I had prepared ahead of time, nothing improvisational. But what it ended up for me was, and I just did a few of them for her, and, it was a great experience and a great start for me. And that's when someone followed me on Twitter that needed lifestyle reporters. And that was how I really got a chunk of where I was able to use my own fun improvisational skills and be out, on the street, interviewing businesses and companies and, making it fun and using my personality in it.
Wow. I love what you're saying here, Rebecca. You know why? Because I think often we put up our own roadblocks. I heard you say prior that you had graduated and really your dream was at that present time after college was, I want to be a broadcast journalist, but I can't write well, so that's out of the question. And sadly, I think a lot of us have these, passions or drives inside of us that we say, no, society won't like it. I don't have an age or whatever.
Absolutely.
And we just stop cold. And what I found in my life, especially the past couple of years starting my own business, is that when you just put one step in front of the other and just follow your dream and go forward, amazing opportunities just pop up in front of you. Now, it's not like it's instantaneous. You'll admit that it took a heck of a lot of work.
Yes.
But it comes about by taking the steps.
Yes. Yeah. And it's very funny. I think most of my early life was just fear. And not, not really, it was a mixture of fear and you're just doing your thing. like, oh, that job seems fun. All right. Oh, and I'm going out with my friends tonight. So you're not like, I wasn't so entrenched in like, I got to be in the right career or, or I have to do what I'm passionate about. I didn't have that understanding or that depth and probably that faith in myself, either. And this is a funny thing about me. When I was younger and I used to work at MTV and I would read like New York Magazine, I would see that people like maybe I even knew from earlier in my life were in a band or they were written about or they started a business and they were written about in New York Magazine. And I was like, I'm in a fabulous, insane special events job at MTV, traveling all over the country, first class travel, meeting celebrities, you name it. And I would read those articles and go, I can't believe that person's getting to do that. I can't believe that they're doing, and in the meantime, I clearly was not that I saw that in myself, but clearly wasn't in the right place for me because I wasn't doing what I probably was passionate about, not that I even realized it. So I do think that if you're somebody who's, really trying to find what your, where your calling is, so to speak, you really have to go through a lot of soul searching and you have to be ready to be confident in yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that I was at that time.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of other things going on in my life that were fun and pulling me in different directions. So I always admire young people when they know what they want to do.
Yeah.
And when I mean young, I mean like 18, 19, 20, you can tell that they're really into whatever their passion is. And it's a very exciting thing to see because I'm always like, I wish I was like that. And I had known that in myself, my life course career-wise would have been very different.
Yeah. But I think the important also to remember, Rebecca, is that we each are on our own journey. And sometimes, even though it seems like, hey, I could have done this a lot faster, why didn't I get my act together like that 18-year-old? Maybe you don't know. Because I met someone recently who had their life dream planned out as a teenager and then came and changed his life upside down. And they're like, well, why did this happen? It could have been this way. And I think sometimes if you just try to seal it in stone, you miss the opportunity that could be before you because you think, oh, it had to be like this.
Absolutely. And I will say for myself, being that married, have a family, kids, the whole thing, that might have not happened had I been somebody who was so focused on what the right career was for me or the passion of the career. So, there's another reality where everything happens for a reason, but the other thing is more the journey of how I figured out what it is that I wanted to do and spend my livelihood doing. And I think that really is more for me what the story is about than, when I was younger, I did other things, It's more about finding what you really want to do and how to become an entrepreneur in your own life and in your own career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I really liked, and prior to our talk, we talked about this, is that, getting to where you are today took a heck of a lot of work. And I myself, like I mentioned before, think often, hey, this should be an easy process. I'm good at what I'm doing or whatever. My first business was not real estate, but it was something I did in corporate. I thought it should be pretty easy to take it and make it a business and turn it into cash, which it wasn't. But we talked about how now you've created your dream. You went out there and put together a portfolio of awesome videos. And it wasn't as easy. Talk a little bit about the production aspect and how actually putting together kick butt content and videos aren't as easy as some people might think.
Right. Again, if someone had asked me 5 years ago to make up all that work that I've made up in the last year and a half, 2 years, I'd be like, what are you, crazy? How do you do that? No way that could have ever happened. When I was with, it's very funny when you find something that you truly are just good at, everything just falls in your lap. And it's not to say that I didn't gain 10 pounds over the last 2 years in doing all of this hard work. So yes, it's hard work, but in the early stages of me doing some interview stuff, I met a young person who was at the same place in their journey as I was. And they're like, hey, I know how to film and edit. And I was like, great, because I don't. So, that all worked out. It was a learning experience for them as much as it was a learning experience for me. So we were able to do some stuff together. And through that, someone had me join a committee in my town, a communications committee, and I met somebody who was more into the production field and had their own business, and not like a kid right out of college. And he and I ended up working together. I ended up finding, some funding through various different venues to hire him and have him, really make my work look professional. And, we've been working together ever since, and he's filmed my first episode of my show, The Cooler. So, as I said, it wasn't easy finding the funding once he and I met, but because it was sitting in my lap and and walking into a room saying, like, why am I doing this committee? This isn't where the direction I want to be in. But yet there was a person in that room who absolutely has helped me so much in the last year and a half. So that's kind of crazy too. And I think that's kind of what I meant. Like, when you're in the right place, things just fall in your lap. The hard work of finding the funding was where the hard work was. But, as I said, I have some other jobs that I do. So I'm an event planner and a real estate agent. So I wasn't giving any of that up because I knew I needed the funding for my productions. And there were some sponsors that we were able to find along the way. And that is a very, a much harder path to take. But if you really stick with it and you do the marketing the right way, you really can, get people to pay you for what your work is. To get your work completed.
Yeah, no, I get you because Savvy, we initially started the first year just as a podcast originally for my first business, a financial consulting business, and there was no prices or sponsors or anything like that. After a year, we had some companies come to us and say, hey, we like your show. Do you have sponsorship packages available or something? I'm like, I'll get right back to you. Had no idea about all of that. And what's interesting, and I'm getting from your story here, Rebecca, is that you push the envelope. And I think that's what's important for anyone wanting to just grow bigger and live their dream in a big way. It just pushes the envelope every day a little bit. And like you, one thing leads to another and to another. And when you're on the track to, doing what you're most passionate about, doors do open.
Yeah, and if someone had told me that 5 years ago, like if your listeners are hearing the story, being like, huh, what? I don't even believe this lady telling this story. It really is true. I mean, that is exactly how everything really came to be. I would take one step at a time. Some weeks there were lulls, sometimes there's nothing going on or you're not meeting the right person. But inevitably, the right person would fall on my lap or a door would open or I'd show up at a networking thing and the right person would be sitting there. And I got to the point now in the last few years where I go to something and I go, and when I meet someone that like clicks with whatever it is, the next step that I should be taking, I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised they're here. But I think once you figure out what that thing is you love, doors do start to open, and certainly it has been very hard work, and it has not been easy, and I've had to keep my foot in a lot of places where I'd rather just have moved on, but that's where the hard work is, that you have to keep going, doing things that maybe you're not like in love with doing because you love so much what you're passionate about, but you've got to keep up, and and what is the saying? Like you fake it till you make it or something.
Yeah. Or but, the endurance as well. Yeah, the endurance.
Or the endurance, absolutely.
Yeah.
And another funny thing for people who are out there trying to search for what their passion is, that I once read an article, and it was about some guy in Texas who started a successful brewery. And I don't know, maybe he was a marketing guy at some company at some point, and he really didn't like what he was doing. And I'm sure like it was like an Inc. magazine or Entrepreneur I don't know where I read the article, but it was a couple of years back, long before I started this. And he said, I decided to ask everyone who knew me what I was good at. And he went around and asked everyone he, was somewhat close to what they'd say to him that he was good at. And people are like, you love talking about beer, or you love like going to try new craft, whatever it was, beer that he was talking about. led him to find how to start this brewery. And, you know, I mean, I guess he was a success at it. I don't know, you know, what level, but he seemed very happy in the career based on where he had been before. So when people are out there listening going, but I don't really know what I like doing, you know, that's somewhere you can start where it doesn't cost you any money. You don't have to hire someone, you know. You can just kind of start like talking to people who know you.
Yeah, and, that's a great indicator, a perfect indicator. When I first got starting my financial consulting business, I wasn't loving it, and I started to ask people just what you said, and they kept saying to me, well, you're good at storytelling, you're good at listening to people, you're good at talking, and I was like, what the heck does that mean? What the heck? Right. Storytelling, what the heck does that mean? What am I going to do with that? Right.
Well, that's crazy, but it starts you thinking about what things do storytellers do? And then the more you talk to people about it, the more you're like, well, I could do a podcast out of my house. Maybe it doesn't cost me any money. That could lead to something. I could start talking to people, you know, about different things that they're involved in as it relates to me. I mean, certainly, you know, I'm just kind of thinking grassroots of how somebody gets started based on that information. But I also feel with the age of social media, if that's what listeners are into, there are so many avenues that you can take. You know, it's pretty incredible. And I did go to a lot of conferences and a lot of networking events, even if they seemed like they'd be strange, because I felt like you never know who you're going to meet. I ended up having a young girl. I met at a networking thing where I met nobody and just gave out my cards and said, this is what I do. A mom came up to me and said, my daughter's a senior in high school and she wants to be a film major, and can she come do an internship with you? And I literally in my mind said, I don't do anything. Like, what? I have no business. This is like when I was starting out. I was like, I'm trying to make something up, you know, doing lifestyle reporting. But, and as it turned out, the girl did her little internship with me, loved working with me, worked with me all summer, helped me write some videos I did for the open house videos I did in real estate. And then after college said, hey, can I come work for you next summer? So she helped me once again on creating the cooler and doing all the sales work we had to do for the sponsors and helping to create the show. So, again, I met her by going to a networking thing because her mom approached me. So you just never know where you're going to meet somebody. And if you find where you live that there are networking things to go to, I recommend going and talking about what you end up feeling you're passionate about. And that's another way also to get started.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And what I'm really getting from you also is to really just keep your options open, because I think what I've noticed for myself as well, and I'm sure a lot of other business owners, is that sometimes the path you're on doesn't seem like you should be there. Why aren't things moving fast enough? Why aren't the sales or the clients? And really, like I had one person on my show last year, he says, you know, building clients or sponsors or whatever it might be for your business, it's an ongoing process. For one, you have to learn sales, you have to build the relationships, and to think that you should be right out of the box making millions, it's not very realistic. But if you stay the course as you did, push the envelope every day, it'll come if you keep yourself open and keep going, one foot in front of
one, and it's baby steps. It's like one foot in front of the other, and you figure out how to make it happen while you're still potentially doing what your old career is, or, you know, where your money stream is coming from. Sometimes you do have to stay in those fields in order to, you know, really make the next place for you to go happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an unbelievable journey, and I'm really excited about the cooler and the potential it has, and
share with our audience.
Amazing.
Yeah, share with the audience where they can find out more about you and see the show when it's available.
Sure. So they can go to RebeccaBermanTV.com to view, you know, all my website and all the latest stuff that's going on with me. I'm on Facebook, Rebecca Berman, Instagram, Rebecca Berman, and Twitter, Rebecca Berman TV. Awesome. At Rebecca Berman TV. So I have like a couple of thousand Twitter followers, and we do periscopes. I also do some podcast shows with comedians, because I'm always open to new concepts and ideas, and we get a lot of our guests by keeping ourselves out there. Guests lined up for the cooler. So it's, so anyone can follow me in any of those places, and you're sure to understand where I am and where the show will be airing.
That's wonderful. Well, it's been fabulous hearing your story and sharing your wisdom today. I want to thank you again, Rebecca, for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
Thank you so much. Okay, it's great talking to you.
Here's our interview with James Evanow. Hi, James. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you today?
Good morning, Christine. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good morning to you. You're in the West Coast area, right? Is that the general location, correct?
Yep. I just moved to lovely Bend, Oregon, and I was in San Jose for quite a while, and San Diego before that. So yeah, I'm bouncing around a little bit, but I think I found my place.
Cool. I always forget what city, states make it over and what time zone they're in all the time. But over here, we're all the way on the coast in New York, and so over here, we're just heading into the afternoon hours. But we're happy to have you join us. You have an amazing journey, James. I mean, being a sailor for many years, and then a business entrepreneur. You're an international speaker, author, personal empowerment and leadership mentor. Share with our audience a little bit about your background, how you came to where you are today.
Well, it's a great question. I wonder about that myself sometimes. But no, I seriously, I did sail. I'm a captain. I'm still a captain. Once you're a captain, you're always a captain. But I grew up in a fishing community in Crescent City, and my dad was a fisherman. My grandfather was a fisherman. My great grandfather was a fisherman, and so I guess I'm fourth generation. But the politics of the fishing industry and a lot of other extenuating circumstances, I decided to move out of that business in the late 90s and went into mortgage finance and did that for about 11 years until the big enchilada happened in 2007. So, it was a great life fishing, and I still go back from time to time. But that's where I started my speaking career, was in the mortgage industry, and decided I like to help people. And the more I looked into that, the more I found out people liked what I was saying. So I thought, well, hey, that's a first. I'm just kidding. But no, so I did. I started getting into speaking more, and got a coach and joined Toastmasters and went through a process and just really enjoy it. So, and then, started taking on some coaching clients and wrote my first book. And so moving up the ladder, and, what I found out is there's a ton of people doing the same thing, and which is fabulous, because I really believe that there's, the fact that there's 93.5 million people unemployed or underemployed in this country alone. There's a lot of people that need some good things to hear, So it's great. I love the community of the people that I've met in the business of speaking and coaching, and it's just it's a great transition. But I still do go back in the ocean. I love fishing, and totally go once in a while to get some salt in my veins.
Yeah, I get you. When we first spoke, I talked about my passion that me and my partner do, which is the flying, and that's just a different aspect of taking it in the air, if not in the sea. But what I really liked about you tying your entrepreneurship and being a mentor is you tie your lessons learned in the sea and tie it into business, which I found very unique. But you also teach on heartfelt intelligence. Now, I thought that was very interesting. Share with our audience a little bit what that is exactly.
Yeah, it's actually I have a book coming out. Hoping to see it published in April, but I'm co-authoring that with someone, and it's the concept of heartfelt intelligence is basically emotional intelligence coming from more of a place of the heart than so much from a place of being cerebral. And the reason I decided to write this book was that I trained for a couple of years on emotional intelligence, traveled around the United States and Canada. And, it was like a huge topic. It still is. But the book was actually written in the mid-'90s by Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence. And it's a great book. If you haven't read it, you should. And, I always joke about it. You always find one person in the family that has zero emotional intelligence. And I know my family may listen to this, so I won't say which one that is in my family, but you probably know who that is in yours. And, the thing with emotional intelligence, I'm not a PhD, and I don't claim to be any smarter than I am, but I do know this, is that sometimes we can overthink things. And I started to really ponder that, and went to do a keynote speech for a convention, and they wanted me to talk about emotional intelligence, but the people at this convention were social workers for the most part in the management. And I decided that, I'm going to put a little bit of a spin on this, because these people are out there really dealing with some really tough issues, as you know. Social workers have to go out into, a lot of the people go out and they're helping people that are really in a dire situation, or they're dealing with people that, have drug addiction, or they've been sexually abused, or, a lot of children that are having problems. And they really have to put their heart into what they're doing. And so to make a long story short, I just thought to myself, you know what, I want to talk about emotional intelligence to these folks in leadership, but I really want to tap into their heart. Because these people are already in that place. And I use Mother Teresa and Florence Nightingale as characters in my speech, along with my father, who was a very heartfelt, intelligent person. So then the speech went well. And so I decided, I'm going to go ahead and write this book about that. So, and the reason I thought that, Christina, was that I really started to think about it. The core tenets of emotional intelligence are self-awareness and compassion. That's two of the core tenets. And I really think that compassion and empathy, when you're looking at those and you really want to be a person coming from that place, it's coming from the heart. It's not coming from the brain. I think if anything else, the brain and the ego has got humanity, for the most part, into some really tough situations throughout the centuries and millenniums. So I really want to put more emphasis on the heart. And I want people to start looking at that and looking at their heart, and quit thinking with the ego. I mean, when coming from a place of ego, and we're always thinking about how are we going to manipulate the situation? How are we going to be in control of our life? That's, there's a lot of people out there that are doing great things. There's a lot of people making a lot of money on Wall Street. There's a lot of people doing great things with corporations. And this cry for more emotional intelligence in corporations, it's actually based around the bottom line. Think about that for a minute. I've had people tell me that. Yeah, we know, we understand, we want to get the management on track with this, because we really want to, we want to retain these employees. Yeah, because it improves the bottom line, right? And they're, yeah, absolutely. Where's that coming from? It's coming from the brain, for the most part. I mean, warranted. They're probably thinking a little bit about the employees and their lives, but, so that's it in a nutshell. I really felt that it was something that was needed. It's needed right now. And I just read this great thing on the internet that, I don't know who posted it, but it said there was $1,780 billion spent on the military over a period of time, and it would only take $170 million to wipe out poverty, or billion rather, I'm sorry. And think about that for a minute. Where is our intention? We're living in a world of fear. We're living in a world of hatred. We're living in a world where these countries are just absolutely fearful of each other constantly.
Yeah.
And so it's at a global level, obviously, and it's been happening forever. And it's this awakening process that is happening right now globally that I think that I'm really tuned into. And as a sea captain, I have a very unique outlook on that.
Yeah.
Because I grew up around some of the most brawny, ass-kicking, tough guys you could ever imagine in your life. Because there's a joke about fishermen, and it's that the cowboys went across the prairies and they went to the farthest edge of the continent, and then they just fell off into the sea and they became fishermen. So
wow.
Yeah, I'm hanging around a bunch of cowboys.
Wow. Yeah, I could totally see that. And I love this talk about emotional intelligence, because more and more bringing the heart into things, and especially in business, because I remember working in the business realm for many years, especially in boardrooms and in corporations, where the heart was left out. I mean, it wasn't anywhere, no how, no way in the office. And to bring the heart in is like, well, that's weak. Yeah, whatever. But more and more, we're seeing businesses that bring the heart into the workplace, as thriving. Like we see what they do at Google for their employees. Like, yeah, they want the best top-notch employees, but they treat them with respect. They want to make a place where you can't wait to go to work. I'm now working with a client that is a new budding technology entrepreneur that is doing well, building more and more employees every day, and they have that same type of attitude of employees first. Let's make their home here as pleasant as possible. And it was amazing transformation, James, walking into the offices compared to most of the corporate offices I've been in the past, where people are excited at their desks. They're smiling with each other. They're working, but they're happy to be there. And what a difference that makes, bringing the heart into the workplace.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely helping corporations. There's a lot of companies out there that have embraced emotional intelligence, and they, and when I'm talking about the fact that there's a lot of corporations worried about the bottom line, that's not everybody. Obviously, there's some companies out there that have embraced this, and way before I ever started talking about it or tapped in or started training on it. Yeah. And it's a great thing, and we need that in corporations. And Southwest Airlines is my favorite example because. I fly Southwest once in a while, and it's the people are really happy that work there for the most part. It seems like, you never know what's going on behind the scenes, but for the most part, it seems like they're always pretty darn happy. And then you fly some of these other airlines, and they're not happy. And it's next time you fly, check it out. I know you're a pilot, so you probably fly yourself, but
yeah.
And I have one of my great favorite stories about emotional intelligence is that I saw this gate attendant for Southwest. My flight was delayed, so I went to this little cafe next to the gate, and some people were really agitated, and they went up to this lady, and they started really complaining to her, and everybody else was just sitting in the seating area. And she got a little bit, she just kind of kept smiling at them, but they kept going, and they wouldn't stop, and they're mad about their flight not being there. And she obviously couldn't control that, and so she just broke out into song. And she started singing, and she had a song that she evidently had written herself, or she sings whenever this happens. And everybody in the seating area stood up and started clapping.
Aww.
Those people just turned around and walked away. But I mean, I know that's something that she's probably allowed to do. And I've seen other people, Southwest, show their inner self, allow their creativity to come out in their beauty. And that's really what's making them successful as a company. And that comes from the bottom up.
Yeah, it is so true. Because let me tell you, and we talked about this before our interview. I've worked in so many corporate spaces and with businesses, and some of them are, as you said, like we're talking about our country and the overwhelming fear mechanism running through everything. And that was what was happening in some of these huge corporations I would walk into. They were at any moment the shoe will drop and I will be fired is pretty much what I'm getting off of everyone's face. And really think about it. How productive are your workers being if that's what they're feeling? Now you think look how strong I am. I keep them in check. They look like they're working. But the bottom line will tell you the real truth of the matter. Now, you mentioned that because fear is running so rapid throughout the globe, and you can sense it with the spending of war around the world. How do people's beliefs and negative emotions really trap them into what seems like life that they don't really are choosing? Like, I'm sure most people would talk to you and say, I don't want to be at war. I don't like war. But look, we've been at war now 11 years in the United States. What would you say to that?
Well, it's a great question. Thanks for asking it. All my coaching clients, whenever I take on a client, that's where we start. I tap into that part of their life. If this is the type of work they want, I also do some business type stuff. But we get down to the part where you have to really look at yourself from 1,000-foot level. And I always ask them the question, whenever something happens to you and we've all done this, we've all said this, I told myself not to do that. And, maybe you've got pulled over for a ticket, or maybe something's happened that's changed your day and it's caused a lot of angst in your day. And we will say that to ourselves. And then when you stop and think about that question, I told myself not to do that. It's like, who is the I and who's the self? And there's a lot of great teachers out there that talk about this. And it's when we can take a minute and stop and look at how we behave. And it's almost as if there's two of us. And it's called duality. And it's living a life of duality. And it happens everywhere. So it's when the ego, there's some different ideas about this, but I call the ego the self.
Mm.
And I look at the I as the soul. That's my belief. I really cherish that. I really believe that I came into this world at some point, into this vessel. Jesus talks about the clay vessels. It's about coming into the body. And it's like, where did you come from? And again, this is all associated with beliefs, and we've all had our upbringing, and we've all been told different things, that we should believe this and we should believe that. And that's all great and fine and dandy as far as I'm concerned. But the bottom line is, it's when the thinker, the self, starts to take over the soul, the essence of the person. The essence of the person wants happiness. The essence of that person wants to do good things. The essence of that person wants to have a normal, happy life. Mm-hmm. The thinker wants more. The thinker wants to. The thinker's always thinking, if I don't do this, I'm a loser. I'm this, I'm that. I mean, you hear it in the political world right now with the talk with Donald Trump, listening to these debates and what have you. It's this whole thing about being a loser or a winner. Mm-hmm. That's the thinker thinking. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about the world at the